SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. Hospitality. It's one of Australia's largest small business sectors and a harbinger of recent economic uncertainty. So, are government policies doing enough to help? And what is the coalition putting on the table this election? Wes Lambert, CEO of the Australian Restaurant and Café Association, unpacks the pros and cons of each major party's offerings for small business owners. In this election week's special interview, he tells Jeff Waters how he's been fighting for the sector to be prioritised by both parties.
Both the government and the opposition have put forward policies that are pro-hospitality. The coalition's put a few more out, including the FBT and the apprentice subsidy potential policies that are a bit sweeter for the hospitality industry, but certainly the government's energy rebate and beer excise are positive signs for the hospitality industry. But certainly we would like both sides, both the government and the opposition, to put more focus on the hospitality industry because we are clearly, factually, the hardest hit industry during this cost of living and cost of doing business crisis, especially with the tariff situation that we have found ourselves in.
Well, let's expand on that. How will the tariffs affect hospitality?
Oh, look, ultimately, we likely will not see any individual increases in any of the inputs that come into restaurants and cafes because we don't have any reciprocal tariffs. However, it's the whole feeling wealthy effect. And with so many Australians having lost so much over the past few weeks in their superannuation and in their personal stock accounts, certainly people are not feeling as wealthy as they were in early 2025.
Yes, and then, of course, we'll have a lag before we see the effects on China, and that will have its own effect on Australian business. Just to expand a bit on what you said earlier about each of the parties, could you please go through their policies for us and explain to small business owners, particularly in the hospitality sector, what is of benefit to them and what is not?
Well, I'll start with the government. At the moment, there's the energy rebate, the $150, which will go a little ways in covering some energy costs for hospitality businesses. Not a great
deal, yeah.
Not a great deal. I've seen bills into the five figures per quarter for hospitality businesses and bigger. So, $150 might not necessarily go very far, but it is something. And then the beer excise, which tends to lean more towards businesses that have bars that pull beer, so draft beer, but certainly a small give back to the industry. From the coalition's point of view, the signature FBT policy, which is targeting 2.5 million small businesses who can finally spend up to $20,000 per annum in hospitality businesses and restaurants and cafes without fringe benefits tax and fully deductible. Now, that means that your local tire shop or your small leasing office can take their staff out for an end of financial year or a holiday meal as a reward and spend a few $1,000s without penalty. Whereas before they would have had to have paid fringe benefits tax and it was reportable and they couldn't deduct the expense. We expect that many of the 2.5 million small businesses around Australia, including tradies, will take up that policy if the coalition is successful in a few days. They also have the recently announced apprenticeship subsidy, which will subsidize, I believe, $12,000 per apprentice for small businesses, which is super important. The hospitality industry is 99% small business. So, that will encourage more Australian youth to go into the food trades, which, despite free TAFE, has remained woefully low. They also have agreed to match the government's beer excise, so that's a positive sign. And they also have the gas policy, which certainly will come as good news to the hospitality industry. We are large users of natural gas in commercial kitchens. And while we belong to groups that are advocating for the increase of electrified kitchens, we know that that's going to take time for commercial kitchens to change from gas to electric. And during that transition, we need to ensure that that gas is available and is as low cost as possible. And both sides of government, are working on things that cost of living measures in general, like the potential tax cuts to individuals, like the fuel excise cut for a year. All of that will help with not only demand. Consumers will have more money in their pockets and more to spend in hospitality businesses, but also they'll affect the owners and the employees of hospitality businesses. So therefore, help to improve demand and the overall cost of living and cost of doing business.
Is it fair to say, given the analysis that you've just given us, is it fair to say with small business owners historically tending to vote for the coalition, that the coalition in this election seems to be, when you add up all of those promises, seems to be the most supportive group of parties? Is that correct?
Look, I never presuppose to tell anyone who to vote for. What I always say is vote for policy. If you're a business owner and, the policies of one side or the other will help you and your business or you and your family, or you agree with those policies more, then that's who you vote for. And ultimately, at the moment, the coalition is just out front with policies that help restaurants and cafes. But, with some days left to go until the election, we will continue to advocate to the government and to the opposition to continue to sweeten the deal, continue to announce policy measures that will help restaurants and cafes. Demand has remained flat in the most recent ABS figures. It isn't going to get any better, especially with the global turmoil.
Well, absolutely. And of course, we all have to wait and see, as we mentioned earlier, what happens there. But in a broad sense, can you tell us where we should be looking insofar as those, you touched on it before, general, broader economic policies are concerned that will increase people's confidence in the market, will make people feel more secure in going out and spending money on hospitality?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
That's my job.
I try not to put my personal political beliefs into my commentary around ARCA and ARCA members, because we don't pick sides. We're about policy, not politics. Certainly, it depends on where you are. And, it depends upon, are you a business owner? Are you a manager? Are you an employee at a business? Are you unemployed? Are you a youth? Are you a retiree? Right? Everyone has different needs, and they're at a different stage in their life. And many people vote differently throughout their lives. Many people vote differently, council, state, and federal elections, and vote for different parties or for independents, and may have a different party for every election. And so, ultimately, the policies speak for themselves. And at the moment, the coalition is just out front with policies for restaurants and cafes. But with, a few days left to go until the election, we will continue to be hopeful.
That was Wes Lambert, CEO of the Australian Restaurant and Cafe Association. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel.